Close. If you watched us in the last episode, Hope and I, we spoke about authority and politics and control and philosophy. The essence of who we are as well as humans are individuals that come together, relate, community, like this statue over here that's showing three beautiful old elders that are coming together by the rocks, by the waters, in philosophy, reading, sharing knowledge, as we could see here with the man holding the book. Here we are at Philosophers Rock, and I want to read what it says just to see if it goes in line with what's going on. It was here on hot summer days that the naturalist Roy Bedichek and the chronicler and folklorist Frank Mondeose sat in the sun and talked for hours about everything from classic works of literature to tall tales of lost Spanish treasure. Their great friend, the historian Walter Prescott Webb, was not a swimmer, but he would often join in the talk. These three, Dobie, Bedichek, and Webb, strove to create a vibrant and distinctive intellectual climate in Texas, and their influence reached far beyond the state. This monument has been erected to celebrate their friendship, their enlightened spirit, and their love for Barton Springs. And here we found ourselves on a beautiful 2-mile walk to come and share and sit in the Barton Springs, and we find ourselves not able to because authorities have told us that we can't. And this whole space is inspired by the idea of intellectual conversation and philosophy. And intellectual conversation and philosophy at the cornerstone, at the bedrock of it, is about being able to talk about things that are maybe taboo, that can possibly offend. And that's the whole point of freedom of speech and talk, is the fact that if you want freedom, you have to be willing to challenge the status quo, whether it be political, authoritarian, socialist, populist, whatever it is, you have to be willing to offend. And that the way our culture is going right now, that we must all think in a certain way, and if you don't agree and if you don't follow the populist socialist opinion, then somehow you are uncredible, you're possibly a conspiracy theorist, and actually you're a bad person. And as a bad person, the next step is to shun them and exile them out of society, so that everybody can think the same way, so that we're all safe and we all live in a safe space. So this is a lot of BS politics, or I would say political correctness, that is eroding freedom and eroding our ability to be critical thinkers, to practice free speech, and to just be like the system is telling us to be. And I say the system because it is the system that is I would say brainwashing or manipulating very well-intended, loving beings to think in a certain way, and then not even needing the authority to impose rules and laws on us, but actually having our friends turn on each other, and they impose the socialist agenda, the populist agenda, by threatening isolation and exile. So that's kind of what we're going. So we were talking a bit about this on our walk. So give me a bit of your thoughts. I'm like rambling here and going on because you got me going in that last episode.
Yeah, well, even the people that don't want to comply with it will comply with it because there is a fear of being exiled. So when we think about when we were tribesmen, the worst thing that could happen is to be exiled by your tribe. So the government, the system, is playing on our hearts and is playing on these old stories of trauma to keep us stuck and complacent in the rules that they are giving us.
This is the strategy, the divide and conquer strategy. And, you know, from an individual identity place, yeah, it's very important that we ensure that each individual has the same rights and freedoms that white people, for example, have shared, have enjoyed forever. But if we go one step larger, or we move go into a macro aspect, it's the understanding that as we separate and we identify with separate groups, that we actually give the system more power to take control and actually take away more and more of our sovereignty. And this is, I think, what we're talking about is like what we stand for is the foundational aspects of freedom that we all can enjoy. And as one person can enjoy it, all people should enjoy it equally. But the more they divide, the more we separate, and the more some measly crumbs of freedom be given about here and there and whatnot. And then we are like, we lose the greater freedom. We no longer could have freedom of travel without certain documents. And so this is the bigger piece. And this is what we have been standing for during all these politically polarizing times. And so part of my experience during these politically polarizing times, I've taken some difficult positions where people that, you know, respect me, they like me, they just don't understand why I'm taking my political positions. And I'm taking them because I feel that we are getting more and more infringed upon in terms of what all our rights are as individuals. And so what I've experienced is this shunning and this made wrong and this outcasting and this the fact that I have ideas that are meant to, the intention of what I was talking was to get people into critical thinking, getting out of group thought, getting into critical thinking. And instead, what ended up happening is that there was a lot of hate, a lot of projection, a lot of telling me that, oh, if I, as a facilitator, as a teacher, like I even had people say, oh my God, you're a teacher, I can't believe I learned all these things from you, and I question all the things that I've learned from you now because of your political position, and I am disillusioned by the fact that I don't even know what to believe, if what I learned from you is good or bad or whatnot.
I feel like everything in life is an opportunity to evolve into a deeper level of love. So I hear, you know, judgments and separation, but really this moment is challenging us to really love unconditionally.
Right.
Truly accept everyone for their expression. Because remember, it's all you. If you have judgments or anger or upset with someone else, that's just a reflection of yourself. So if you truly want to love yourself and love the world, then we had to unconditionally love all points of view and learn to live and work together.
Exactly. And like when we were walking before, you asked me the question. It's like, so, you know, your experience of, you know, of this polarization and being on a pole, that like, how do you feel it plays into the bigger picture? And what I was sharing with you is like, yeah, so, you know, I look at everything that's happening as Leela or Maya. These are spiritual concepts that it's all an illusion. Mm-hmm. Everything that's playing out is for us. So this is a dimension of play, awakening, knowing ourselves as God. And so this is an opportunity for us to be in the complete expression, to be in sensorial experiences, to experience emotion, to allow emotion to take over you, or to be able to manage emotion. And so when I started to take my political positions publicly, it really started as a play. It was really like, I'm playing because I'm seeing these contradictions, I'm seeing the manipulation of corporate media, I'm seeing people that I absolutely care and love get lost, investing their emotional energy, which has currency, that has weight, that has power, and they're getting lost in all like the storyline and getting stuck in the politics and the media. And so for me, it was like more like, hey, have you stopped to think of the opposite perspective? Can we have a conversation? And what I discovered was the conversations could be had, but not without like the incendiary emotional reactions and the desire to absolutely want to change people and control thought and like, oh my God, I thought this of you, and if now everything's changed and I have no respect for you. And so fair enough. And so you were asking me, how's that land for you? And for me, in the end, at the beginning, I didn't know what I was doing. But by the end, this practice that I had the guts to dive into gave me the gift that what I saw was people going into polarization and separation. Separation due to the fear of not being understood, the fear of being controlled, the fear of not belonging, the fear of abandonment, the fear of rejection, of all of that. So I was going through that, and I'm like, okay, whatever. If you want to throw me out, throw me out. It's all good. But
you remember it's a game.
I remembered it was a game.
It's all fun. So we are here to evolve in love and to have fun. So if you're not having fun,
you're not doing it right.
You're not doing it right.
There's the moving towards fun, but pain does happen, and that's the part. But suffering is a choice. Pain is non-negotiable, but suffering is a choice. And so certain people are choosing to be in the suffering. And I could, you could say that, I'm coming from a privileged position. I am coming from a privileged position, and I'm using my privileged position to, number one, support people for awakening so that they could know themselves as God, as the creator. And, I read the book from Viktor Frankl, and Viktor Frankl, it was all about finding will and purpose, even in the most destitute moments. Viktor Frankl was persecuted and was in concentration camps, and even there he found purpose. And he says that when you lose purpose, that's when you lose the will to live. So even in pain and in struggle, we can still find purpose and still find our reason for being. So this idea of canceling people because we're struggling is a cop-out of the human condition. And so in the end, what I found out in this, at the bottom line was, I recognized how people want to cancel me and discredit me for being a critical thinker. And what I recognize that my role here is not to be in reaction to that and to find justification in who I am and what I'm doing, but is actually to witness in the Maya, in the illusion, and come back to love. And this journey of polarization, the biggest gift it has given me was to love unconditionally. Because I have seen people that I respect, as people respect me, step into like ideals or ideology that has completely turned me off. And I'm like, how can you be a believer of that? I am so sad and so sorry that you believe in that. And there's a part of me that wants to disown you. But what I recognize is that this is just politics, manipulation, social media. And when I come back to the heart, I could recognize that we are love. And if me and Hope we're at polar opposites, and me and my beloveds are at polar opposites sometimes. But when we come together, we remember who we are, what we stand for in our hearts, in the way we treat each other, then it's like that's all noise. And so my challenge, or the challenge that I see, is can we learn to love each other in opposing opinions, in opposing ideologies, because ultimately we are safe. And what would make us get into separation is the belief that we are unsafe or our ideology is unsafe. You know who did that? The Nazis. The Nazis made it believe that we were unsafe if we didn't follow certain ideologies. And what the United States of America is about having freedom of expression. As long as we do no physical harm, or we don't put anybody down under us as oppressed to us, that this is all an opportunity for us to be an awakening and come together. we have a lot more in common than we have in separation, that we have in difference. So that's the reminder, and that's my invitation for everybody, is actually find somebody that you disagree with, but that you love tremendously, that you don't necessarily agree with their ideology, and practice falling in love with them. Practice remembering how you love them. That would be my spiritual gift on the Spiritual Playboy to you in this time in early 2021, where there's deep polarization and a deep move to put us in separation. And throughout that, regardless of what you think and regardless of how fear-stricken you are, come back to the unconditional love of recognizing each other as a reflection of each other, as another you, as another me, and coming into that love. Thank you for watching this wild and edgy episode. Crazy, controversial, really wackadoodle idea that critical thought and philosophy is offensive, and I must be cancelled and Hope must be cancelled because we have different ideologies than you. And I would say release ideology and come back to the heart, come back to the human spirit, and go away from identity politics and remember that we are actually all one, living this journey to come into remembering that we are the creator, that we are the gods, that this is all happening for our greatest good, which is awakening. And the more we struggle to be in separation and have it our way, the more we will be in suffering. So come back to love, and come and love somebody that you completely disagree with. That would be my invitation. Take care. Let love free, because it's the only way we'll ever change anything. That's what I've been saying for years on the Spiritual Playboy. Let love free. Don't be in fear. Actually, in the uncanonized version, the Gospel of Thomas, Jesus says it is fear that gets us into disease. It is fear that creates disease, not a virus. So the more that you enter into fear and separation, the greater you have the opportunity of getting sick and dying. Ponder on that for a bit, as the media and the news and everything and every mask-wearing person and every fucking sign on springs that are no longer accessible tell you to be in fear. So funny. In that area, we could not go into the freaking springs because it's dangerous, and then you go around the fucking gates, and all of a sudden, here we are where it's no longer dangerous and people could congregate and go swimming. Think. I'm begging you, think a bit. Just don't fucking consume.